Recording. Okay, so let me bring back our whiteboard. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hide you. Okay. Let's unmute. Okay. Just checking. All right. Okay. So here, I'm going to use the lecture notes we stopped at last time, okay? When I said every economy is driven by two major forces, the demand and supply. We spent plenty of time in understanding the demand and consumers' preferences, okay? Remember those examples with pants and babies, turtlenecks, right? And what we arrived at, a very important conclusion: consumers' preferences, ours. The lower the price, the happier we're going to be, and the more units of that specific good we will be willing to buy. Okay? Now, then we started discussing the supply side. And we said for us to be able to walk into a store and buy the goods or pay for the services, those goods and services first need to be created and delivered to the market, or produced and delivered to the market. And that production, that supply, comes from producers, okay? The easiest example, at least the easiest for me to work with, is to think of a pizza place. Remember I told you, imagine you're opening a business. What is it gonna take you to open the doors of your business, let the customers in, and start serving them, okay? Start producing, delivering, and selling the goods or services. And the example I always use, because it really is relatively easy to deal with, is a pizza place. Imagine you're running a pizza place, okay? And we said, even before you see your first pizza ever to come out of oven and ready to be sold and eaten, right? Before you see that first pizza, you need to find a building, okay, to have all your pizza making process. You need to have workers, people who actually making pizzas, selling them, servicing customers, pizza delivery, right? To actually end up with the really ready pizza steaming, okay? You have to have flour, you have to have cheese, you have to have all these ingredients, or what we call inputs. When combined together, produce a pizza. You also have to have equipment, okay? You have to have stoves or ovens where you actually get the pizza ready. And most importantly, you have to have that place, that building where water is running, electricity, warmth, everything else you need to, okay? So look what happens. You have to pay for all of it up front, even before you see your first pizza comes out of oven and ready to be served or sold, okay? All of that, you have to pay for all of it. Up front. Ever wondered when people say, okay, I'm starting a business, I need an upfront capital. That's why. Okay, before you deliver the first unit of the good that you're ready to sell, this is how much. This is how much you need to put into your business before you see very first dollar of profit or just return. Okay, call it all investments. Rental for the building, wages for workers, you pay for the ingredients, you pay for the equipment, you pay for the utilities. All of it combined creates a cost of production. Okay? So basically it's the same things to say, it's gonna cost me some to make those pizzas happen, right? So you calculate how much is the rent for a month, how much you have to pay your workers, how much you need to spend on ingredients, on equipment, and utilities over months, and you have an approximate number of pizzas you can make and sell. And then you calculate what is the average cost per pizza, okay? Right? How much it's gonna cost you to make one pizza happen. And I'm just gonna make up numbers. Let's say it costs you $3 to make a pizza, right? I just made up the $3, okay? It costs you, including everything, $3 to make a pizza. Here is a question. How much will you be willing to sell those pizzas for? Okay, here, I'll give you an example. You can sell those pizzas at a special, okay? Okay. Okay. If you are running this pizza place and it costs you $3 just to make one pizza, will you be willing to sell those pizzas at $2.99 a piece? Will you be?
No,
No, right? Why no?
that's a loss in profit.
Because if it costs you $3 and you sell it at $2.99, you're losing a cent. You don't just cover your spending cost, right? You don't, and it's like, you don't even cover it at all. So you are making those pizzas and literally just gifting them. No, we're not gonna sell it at $2.99. No sale. What about at $5.99? Is it a better price than $2.99 for you as a pizza maker? Anybody?
Yes, that is a good
Why
deal.
is it better than $2.99?
Well, you're above your profit.
Yeah, so selling those pizzas at $5.99, you will cover the cost of making the pizza, $3. So you will be able to meet the payments for building, workers' wage, everything. And you're still going to have $1.99 on top of left as your profit. That sounds okay, doesn't it? What about $9.99? Will you be willing to sell those pizzas at $9.99?
Yes,
Because
it's a big gain in profit.
because $9.99, very good. You will cover your $3 cost, and it's going to leave you about $6.99 of profit. So now let me ask you this: which price you, as a pizza maker, will prefer to sell your pizzas at? Let me get the red one. At $5.99 or at $9.99? Which price would you prefer?
$9.99.
Because
It's a higher
it
profit
leaves
margin.
more, exactly. After you cover the cost, it leaves more money as your profit. So look what happens. We are arriving at a very important conclusion at producers' preferences. Producers prefer to sell their goods at a higher price. Higher price will cover their cost and give them more profit. So therefore, the producer's preferences is the higher the price, the happier they will be, the more units of this good they will be willing to produce. Okay, let's write it down. Producers' preferences. The higher the price, the happier producers okay, that's, I have no idea what I wrote there. The happier producers are going to be, the more units
Hey
of the
there,
good,
sorry I'm late.
the more units of the good they will be willing to produce. Willing to produce. Okay. All right. The higher the price, the happier producers are going to be, the more units of that good they will be willing to produce. So at $9.99, they will be willing to produce more pizzas and offer them for sale than at $5.99, simply because higher price offers them higher profit, and profit, that's all they care about. They don't care about the fact that we need to eat something, so they're going to make pizzas. It's not about our need, it's about their ability to make profit. Okay. Any questions so far? Any confusions, anything?
I
Wait.
was a little late I just showed up about 2 seconds ago. Is this all going to be recorded? Like, is there a chance that I can?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just
Yes.
rewatch what I missed then.
Yes.
And then it says the happier producers are going to be the more.
Units,
Oh, okay. Okay.
the
Got
more units of the good they will be willing to produce. Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Think of the word willing. Again, nobody is making them produce the good. They are producing it because they expect profit. Okay? So it's all about their willingness to meet our demand. We are willing to buy goods and services if the prices that we see meet our expectations or below. We're willing to buy, they're willing to produce and supply. Okay, right? Any other questions so far? No? So look what happens. For producers, as price increases from $5.99 to $9.99, the quantity, the number of pizzas they're willing to make and supply and sell increases. Q is for quantity. But as price drops from $9.99 to $5.99, they will not be as happy. Okay? Cutting on their profit, and they will cut on their production. Capital P stands for price and capital Q stands for quantity. So look here. These two expressions identify producers' preferences. Okay? And we see that price and quantity, they both move in the same direction. So we will say there is a positive relationship between prices and quantities. Between prices and quantities supplied. Okay, right? Any questions so far? Okay, so what we've been discussing verbally, consumers' preferences and producers' preferences, okay? The easiest way to analyze a specific situation or discuss prices for goods and services is to look at the picture, as always. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch from the white screen to a very short video, okay? Now, you can still rewatch it because I'm recording the lecture and there is a complete video on our Western Online. And the narrative is very, very fast. So I'm going to stop it here and there just to make sure, just to make point or stress the importance. Okay, let's see if we can have it. Here we go. There, and
Supply and demand. First, we'll take a look at supply. Supply is a fundamental economic concept that describes the amount of a specific good or service that is available to consumers. Supply can relate to the quantity available at a specific price, or the amount available across a range of prices. This relates closely to the demand for goods and services at a specific price. All else being equal, the quantity of supply provided by producers will increase if prices rise, as all firms.
okay, so this is what we just concluded. The supply will increase as price rises. Okay,
Look to maximize profits. For the sake of simplicity, we'll refer to a good or service simply as the product. Supply consists of two main variables, price and quantity. When prices are low, suppliers produce lower quantities of that product. But as the price of a product increases, suppliers will increase the quantity of production, and thus we allow them to increase revenues. So now let's tie in what we've just learned into the traditional presentation of supply, the graph. As we know, when prices are high, suppliers produce a higher quantity of a product. And when prices are low, suppliers will tend to produce lower quantities. Or in other words, a supplier has more incentive to increase production.
okay, look what happens. This is one of the curves that we worked with during our first chapter. Remember, we had a line or a curve that ran up the hill, and we calculated numerically the slope for the curve, and it came out as a positive number. So we said that was the only time when we're going to calculate the number. But from now on, we're going to call a line like that a positively sloped line. So what I want to draw your attention to, remember, we just talked about producers saying as price increases, they will be willing to produce more units of good. As price decreases, the quantity supply will decrease. So there is a positive relationship between prices and quantity supplied, and that positive relationship explains the positively sloped supply curve.
When prices are high as opposed to when prices are low, due to the potential of larger revenue. Now, let's take a look at demand. Demand is an economic principle that describes the consumer's desire and willingness to pay a price for a specific product. Holding all other factors constant, the demand of a product increases as its price decreases, and vice versa. Demand is comprised of the same two variables as supply, price, and quantity. But as opposed to supply, when prices are low, consumers demand a higher quantity of that product. As prices of that product increase, consumer demand decreases as they are less willing to pay more for the product. So now let's tie this into the traditional presentation of demand, the graph. As we know, when prices are high, consumers demand a lower quantity of that product. And as prices decrease, consumers will tend to demand higher quantities of that same product. In other words, there are more consumers willing to pay a little for an item than there are consumers willing to pay a lot.
All right. Remember the turtlenecks and the pants? I said I bought all those turtlenecks because they were priced at 99 cents a piece. The regular price was $9.99. At $9.99, I would have bought none of those. But at 99 cents, I bought all they had on display. Okay, so consumers' preferences. We prefer to prices to be low. When prices drop, we increase quantity demanded and we buy more. Okay, lower price, higher quantity. But as price increases, our willingness to buy drops. So we're looking at a negative relationship. And look at the curve or a line that represents the demand. It has a negative slope. So the demand curve is a negatively sloped line. So what I want you to take from the short video, okay, and if you need to rewatch it, please do so, okay? It's called Supply and Demand in 3.5 minutes, right? Every time we say supply curve, what I want you to shut out into your brain a positively sloped curve. Every time we say demand curve, okay, what I wanted to see you in your brain is the negatively sloped curve, okay? You can watch a little bit more.
Now that we've covered both supply and demand separately, we'll take a look at the two concepts at the same time and examine the effect they have upon each other. We are now familiar with both graphs of supply and demand. Since they have the same variables, we can now combine the two to create a single graph for supply and demand. As we've seen earlier, when the price of a product increases, suppliers will increase the quantity of production. And when the price of a product decreases, consumer demand will increase, and they will purchase higher quantities of their product. Notice that supply and demand do not react in the same way in relation to price. So now let's take a look at what happens to the market in a couple different scenarios.
Okay, we're not going to look at the market in a couple of different scenarios right now. Okay, right now we're going to go back to our whiteboard and spend a little bit more time on a blue downward sloping demand curve and red upward sloping supply curve. Okay, and back to, there we go. All right. All right, so that's where we stopped. Describing the preferences for consumers and for producers. So demand curve represents consumers' preferences with price and quantity, price and quantity. The demand curve is a downward demand curve, downward sloping curve. All it represents consumers' preferences. As price decreases, we will be willing, will be happy to buy more units of the good. As price increases, we will find that good not attractive at all and won't buy any or fewer units than before. Okay, that's all this demand curve represents, a negative relationship between price and quantity. Okay, so the way this curve was built from the video and from the description of the preferences, as price of the good, let me switch to the red one, changes, as price changes, we will simply move along the demand curve. As price drops, we are moving along the curve down. As price increases, we're moving up. Okay, right? But sometimes what happens is we make a change, willing change in how many units of the specific good we're gonna buy with no change in price. And when this happens, we will call it an outside shock, and any outside shock will shift this curve. Okay? An outside shock, or we can call it a non-price change, okay, will shift the demand curve. Okay, right? Will shift the demand curve. Okay, let's start with an easy one. So first, income. Our income is the source of all the spending we do. And our income defines how much of the spending, how much of buying we can possibly do. So when income changes, and when we say income, consider any way the funds are coming your way. Okay, it could be a scholarship, it could be your parents' funds, it could be a part-time job or a full-time job, or you might be selling something that belongs to you. Any way you receive your funds, funds that support your spending will be called your income. Okay, so income defines how much you can afford to spend, right? So when the income changes, our spending pattern changes, okay? Right? An increase in income, okay? You know what? I'm going to make a new picture or graph, a cleaner one. That's our demand curve, capital D, just one letter, demand curve, okay? Let's have those pizzas, all right? An increase in income. Let's say, what would be? Maybe $5.99. Once in a while, they do run a special, right? Right? I'm making up numbers, $5.99 and 4. I'm just making up numbers to have something, a numerical example to talk about as an illustration, okay? So let's say last semester you had a part-time job and you were always looking for a special on pizzas, and once in a while they would run a special at $5.99 and you buy 4 pizzas for today and tomorrow. A 2-day-old pizza is still good, okay? But this semester, because all your classes are online, almost all of them, you can hold a full-time job or 2 part-time jobs. You're working more, you're earning more, your income is higher, okay? So what happens, let me get a green one. So what happens? At $5.99 with your higher income, you can afford to buy more pizzas simply because you can, right? At $5.99, 8 pizzas. You see the new green dot? That explains your spending for pizzas at the given price. That dot does not belong to the original demand curve. That dot belongs to a different, a higher located demand curve. Let's call it D sub 1, okay? So what happened here? In increasing your income and your spending changes, you can afford to buy more units, even though the price of the good doesn't change, still $5.99. So every demand curve will respond to higher income, to a change in income in a positive way, the same way it will shift to the right, showing an increase in spending, not due to a change in price. Our demand curve shifts to the right as income increases, okay? What happens if your income decreases? So last semester, the spring, you had 1 part-time job, okay? But this semester, again, because the majority of your classes are online, and instead of taking 4 or 5 classes, you're taking 6 or 7. Your entire time, you're trying to manage really hard and still stay sane at the same time, which is, I know, very hard. You're in a hurry to finish your degree, so you put aside all your jobs, your income shrinks, okay? That part-time job is gone, your income drops. Because of lower income, you can't afford even to buy 4 pizzas anymore. You're down to 1, okay? All right, so at $5.99, you are willing at this point to buy only 1 pizzas because of the constraint that a lower income imposes on your spending. But you see that red dot? It's not part of the original D sub 0 curve. It is part of a new demand curve. Let's call it D sub 2, okay? That is located below or to the left of the original one. What happens? A drop in your income restricts your spending ability, so you spend less, you demand fewer units of the good, and that reflects in the position of the demand curve. It shifts to the left. Demand curve shifts to the left. Okay? You're making a conscious decision to spend less, not because the price is going up. The price is the same, $5.99, but because you don't have enough funds to maintain the same level of spending. That's what we call an outside shock. This is what shifts the demand curve. Okay. Okay. Any questions about income? No? Okay. Let's look at another shift variable, a B1. B, size of the population. Okay. Let me have a new graph. And the original demand curve, D sub 0. So population. When we say population, we really refer to the number of consumers. How many of us are here present to buy and consume that good, okay? What about the population? Well, look at Macomb, okay? With the university being here, the population is very volatile throughout the year. What happens in the middle of August under normal conditions? You're all coming back in the middle of August. You settle down, we start the classes. Here goes fall and winter. Here goes the spring. And then in the middle of May, you graduate or you're done with your semester work, you all go back home. See what happens? There is a summer Macomb, there is a fall, winter, spring Macomb, and there is again summer Macomb, right? When such a change happens to population, we're all the same people. We eat pizza, we eat other goods, okay? But if the number of pizza eaters changes, then there will be fewer purchases of that good made, all right? Okay, so population drops in its size. Okay, what does it mean? That means there are fewer pizza eaters, simply fewer, okay? And we have a leftward shift of the demand curve. To show that there are fewer eaters means lower demand. Lower demand means leftward shift. Demand curve shifts to the left, okay? A population drop, okay? That's, remember, producers are making money on us when we buy goods or services or whatever they're making happen and sell. So there are fewer of us. They don't have to make as many units as before. Okay, that's why you will find that in smaller towns like Macomb, there are summer scheduled business hours and there are the rest of the year business hours. Okay, especially it concerns the restaurants. Back then, way back then, okay, we would have summer hours and fall, winter, and spring hours. Okay, and in summer, you will find that some places simply close. They would open maybe twice a week on Friday and Saturday and then close the rest of the week. Why? Because there are not enough eaters. Okay, the student population is gone. Okay, what's left? People who reside in Macomb. Okay, drop in population. Now, an increase in population. Here you are. You all are coming back in the middle of August and all the eating places, restaurants, they're all back on their normal schedule, open 5 or 6 days a week with hours where we can come in and eat, okay? In this case, we will have more eaters, more consumers, more people demanding buying and consuming food, okay? Or other units. We call it D. Okay, on the previous one, let's call it D2. This is D1. Let me go back to the green one. The demand curve shifts to the right. Whoa. Okay.
Hey, Professor, something just came up. I'm gonna have to leave,
Okay.
but I will
Make sure,
watch the
yes,
recording.
yes. Make sure you come back and rewatch the last segment of the lecture, okay?
Okay, definitely will. Thank you.
Okay, take care. All right, so look what happens. Less eaters, fewer eaters, the demand curve shift to the left. Again, no change in price. The change in demand for units available happens due to some other factor outside the scope of our graph. You see, we have price and quantity. Okay, price does not change, but quantity changes. Why? Because there is an outside shock. And the result of the shock, a shift in the demand curve. Okay, right. Any questions? So we have two more factors. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at all the factors that shock or shift the demand curve. Then we're going to look at all the factors that shock or shift the supply curve. Then they bring everything together. Then we talk about equilibrium. And then at the end of the chapter, what I usually do, I just read you guys a cutouts from newspaper, and we convert those cutouts using our understanding of the different shocks into understanding why such or other shock changed the price of the good. Isn't it great? I think so too. All right, so for now, I know that's not very exciting, that's not very dramatic or very exciting, but let's just stick to it, okay? Let's learn all the shocks. So income, size of the population, consumers' preferences. C. Consumers' preferences. Okay. Consumers' preferences. When we say consumers' preferences in terms of changing demand, it's all about likes and dislikes. Okay, I really like salted sea salted caramel ice cream, right? I didn't used to like it because it was not available, but once I tried it, I really love it. So I'm shifting away from my regular chocolate, strawberry, vanilla into sea salted caramel. Okay, do you see my likes and dislikes? Okay, I'm shifting away from, this is a hard shift, shifting away from spreading butter on my toast into spreading avocado on my toast. You know, sometimes there are mornings when I don't even want to look at avocado, but healthy, what can you do, right? Shifting away from butter to avocado. They say it's healthy, isn't it? Supposed to be, okay? Shifting away from fried food to steamed food. All my examples about food and clothes, right? I really like food, okay? Then shifting away from red wine to white wine, okay? Preferably French, right? So this is what I mean by saying preferences, okay? You used to drive one type of car, you didn't enjoy the experience, so when you sold it, you went for a different type of car. Likes and dislikes explain our preferences. And when we change our preferences, just like I did, from chocolate, strawberry, vanilla ice cream to sea salt caramel, I'm not buying that chocolate, strawberry, vanilla ice cream anymore. I'm buying the sea salt caramel. See? My personal demand for strawberry, chocolate, vanilla went down, all the way down, with disregard, complete disregard to the price of the type of ice cream. Nothing happened to the price simply because I don't like it anymore. But my demand for sea salt caramel just went through the roof. Not because the price went down, no change in price, because I like it more than before, okay? So that takes us to the distinction between two goods. We shifted away from one type of a good to another type of a good, okay? Um, okay. Yeah, I know. What can you do? Healthy means healthy. So here's my butter demand. Okay. Of course, I don't completely give up butter. You know, sometimes there are mornings when you wake up and the only thing that can keep me moving is the toast with butter on it. That's when the avocado has to wait. Okay. Okay. So preferences means you must be switching from something to something else. Therefore, and something else must have their own demand curves. Okay, so I'm switching from butter to avocados. On a good day when I wake up and everything is fine and I feel great, right? My switch away from butter reduces my individual consumption of butter simply because I don't like it anymore. No change in price. Okay. Lower demand for butter because I don't like it anymore, and the demand curve for butter shifts to the left. Okay, shifting to the left always means lower or reduced. Okay. I'm shifting away from butter to use more of avocados. More, right? More means a rightward shift of the demand curve. More. So higher demand for avocados because I like it more than before, and the demand curve for avocados shifts to the right. Okay, right. Switching preferences from beer to milk. The demand curve for beer shift to the left, the demand curve for milk shift to the right. One type of cereal to another type of cereal. The good you're switching away from, that good demand curve shift to the left. The good you're switching to, that good demand curve shifts to the right. That's what happens when we change preferences. Okay. See, any questions about consumers' preferences? And it doesn't have to be some healthy reason. Sometimes we just stop liking goods, right? Or sometimes something new in the market attracts our attention and we go for it, forgetting what we are so used to. Okay? Likes and dislikes is changing preferences. Right? So that was, so factors or shocks that will always affect the position of the demand curve: our income, size of the population, consumer preferences. And now we're going to move to the last factor, the last shock or shift factor for the demand curve, that is called prices and availability of related goods. A, B, C, so D. Prices prices and availability of related. Related is the key word here, related goods. Okay, related goods, when we talk about related goods, we talk about complements. Okay, two goods will be called complements if they are consumed together. Okay. For example, shoes and shoelaces, right? Right? If you're wearing shoes with shoelaces, those two goods are complements. Or here's an example that I always use in this part of the lecture is, let's suppose that the only time you buy and eat popcorn when you go see a show at a movie theater. Okay? Popcorn and a show. Okay? You will buy popcorn if and only if right there at the inside the movie theater if you're going to see a show. If you're not going to see a show, you're not buying popcorn. Okay? So the related good here is the show. Okay? The demand and supply. The demand only is for popcorn. Okay. But the prices and availabilities of shows will affect our demand for popcorn, right? So let's say movie tickets, right? Okay, so you used to go see a show, a movie at a movie theater maybe once a month, okay? And this is the time where usually you do it. So you go on the local movie theater webpage to see what the prices are like or the shows. And you find that a movie ticket is going to cost you $50, one movie ticket, right? How many shows are we going to go to see at the $50 a show?
Not very many.
No, we're not going. Okay, we're gonna buy Amazon Prime, right? Or we're gonna pay for Netflix, which is, well, Amazon Prime, you do have to, okay, forget about Amazon. If you don't have it already or your parents don't, Netflix is $17.99 a month with tons of movies available, right? At $50 a movie ticket, forget it, we're not going. But if we're not going to a movie show, then we're not buying popcorn. Okay, our demand for popcorn goes all the way down to the floor. Okay, not because the popcorn is so expensive. No. Because the good that is related to popcorn, the good that makes us come to the popcorn machine is way out of range. Okay, so the demand curve reflecting the change shifts to the left. Demand curve for popcorn to the left, right? Okay. I made the movie ticket so grossly expensive, okay, that people's gonna say, no, there is no way. For one show, $50? No. Okay. On another occasion, a friend tells you, hey, there is a new movie came out. There was a new movie that came out. A friend of mine told me that she really likes it. I forgot what it was. And she literally drags you to the movie theater and you're like, listen, last time I checked, every movie ticket went for $50. And she said, no, that was ridiculous. You walk into the movie theater and they tell you that today movie tickets are sold at $1 a show. How many shows are we going to see?
As many as you can.
All of them, exactly. I'm there with you, all of them, okay? As a matter of fact, I probably gonna buy a monthly pass at that price, right? Yeah, that I'm there with you, absolutely. So we're gonna go in for every show or as many as our schedule will let us, and every time we walk in, we buy popcorn. So because this related good is so affordable and so attractive, we're gonna eat all their popcorn. They better have enough of supply of the popcorn kernels, right? So our demand for popcorn just goes through the roof, okay? And to show that, literally show that on the graph, the demand curve will shift to the right. Okay. Demand curve for popcorn shifts to the right. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is the price. Now, the name of the factor, price and availability. Okay. For some time, the movie theater was just closed. They just reopened it with new list of new shows. But was it summer? Yeah, because you guys were gone, right? And we are Macomb people. I'm watching Prime and Netflix, and that's more than enough for me. Okay. Plus, with the pandemic out there, I'm just like, no. So for a while, I think for the whole summer, our local movie theater was closed. So that the related good was not available at all. You see, then the demand curve for popcorn just dropped to the floor. Okay, ground zero, no popcorn, right? And now it's the movie theater is open. We can go buy tickets and watch, and the demand went up. Okay, so let's verbally summarize what we did today. Okay, when the price of the good, in our case popcorn, changes, that change will move us along the demand curve, up or down. Okay, but if we have a shock to the demand curve, a change that is a non-price popcorn change, that shock will shift the demand curve. And there are four shocks we work today with. The income, consumer's income, when we decide to spend more or less because we can or can't, right? Size of the population, how many eaters or movie show viewers are actually available, right? Consumer preferences, likes versus dislikes, and prices and availability of related goods. Okay. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to go through these factors on your own again. I want you to, if you have to, memorize them. So when we translate a paper clipping into one of these shocks, you know exactly what happens with the demand curve. Okay? I plan on stopping right now, right here. I think I loaded you up with enough of information. We're going to start on shifting of the supply curve on Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to work through the supply curve, equilibrium, and paper clippings. Okay, are there any questions? No? Okay, all right, I'm going to stop the recording. And once the computers process the recording, I will upload it later today on our Western Online. I strongly recommend you guys to go and watch the 3.5 minute demand and supply video. Okay. The guy speaks very fast, very fast. With me teaching this class for the last 20 years, I had to watch it for the first time. When I saw it for the first time, I had to watch it 3 times. Okay. So do yourself a favor, watch that movie again and work with these 4 shock factors. Okay? All right? Right?